Salve! Justin Slocum Bailey here from the Teach Human Latin Teacher Lab, which provides resources and training to simplify Latin teachers' lives and help them grow as teachers, and through that, to help Latin learners acquire the language joyfully and efficiently. In this video, I'm going to talk about using Latin rejoinders in class, why to use them, what ones I like to use, and how to use them. So why use Latin rejoinders? Well, partly it's just fun, but also it allows for a type of participation that might not otherwise be possible early in the Latin learning process. And specifically, it allows students to react in Latin in real time to something that they hear or read in Latin. And that's a really cool experience when a student participates in that way and realizes that they just made this real-time response in the same language as the thing they're responding to, which is a language they didn't previously know. That's enjoyable, it's even joyful, and it's a powerful motivator for further participation and learning. So what are some specific Latin rejoinders that my students and I really like to use? How do they come up? How do I first teach them? And how do we use them? First, let me say, just for clarity, by rejoinder, in the language teaching and learning community, we basically mean interjections, things that you could holler out, sometimes individual words, sometimes longer phrases. And sometimes I like those just to come up spontaneously, when we're in a situation in class or when we see something in a reading or something and this is a good time to teach this rejoinder or this interjection, I'll do it then. But I want to give you the ones right here that I always start the year with, written on the board, usually written on a sideboard, kind of an own space for rejoinders, why I like these ones, and then how we use them and build on them. So first, I always have papae. Sometimes you also see bye-bye, right? And I tell students bye-bye is just a generic like wow or oh my goodness, something like that. I'll often write, usually in another color, an equivalent in whatever the shared language that is. So if I'm teaching Spanish speakers, I would write that in Spanish. If I'm teaching English speakers, I might write that in English, like wow or wowie zowie, sometimes, right? So that's one, papae, because this allows whenever something marvelous or surprising happens in class or in a text, papae is something that students can holler out. Another one that I give is eheu. And I tell students this means basically like yay. And again, whenever something good happens, whether we're celebrating something that happened to a student or an achievement of a student, whether something happens in a text that's interesting or fun, or that students really like, they can yell out eheu. And of course, sadly, not everything in life is papae and eheu. There's also eheu. Eheu. I tell students this means oh no. Sometimes I tell them if you look it up in an old Latin dictionary, it will say alas, because that can be a fun word, but this is like the oh no. And this also, when we find out some sad information, whether it's something from or about a student, or whether it's something foreboding in a text, we can yell out eheu. And that is the point. Before I give you the other three that I start the year with, that is the point. The idea with these rejoinders is students are authorized and encouraged to holler these out anytime they feel relevant based on what's going on in class or in a text or resource, video, whatever it is that we're looking at. So these, of course, are all classical interjections found frequently in the playwrights and other locations as well. These are ones I love to start off with, but even with first day of Latin 1 students, I like having some Ciceronian constructions as well for them to start getting the hang of, and just to widen the amount of things that they can participate with right off the bat, which, remember, I said is one of the points of doing this. I'll do this in a different color. These are orem. I give them three. Orem ridiculam. And I tell them, this is like, oh, what a laughable thing. Oh, what a ridiculous thing. But it's basically like, oh, that's ridiculous, right? Orem ridiculam. You sneak in right off the bat, and there'll be another video about teaching like advanced grammar. There's not really such a thing as advanced grammar, right? There's only what one has been exposed to and been able to understand, and what one hasn't yet. But the accusative of exclamation could be considered something that doesn't normally come up early in, let's say, a Latin 1 class. This is a way of sneaking it in. I don't have to teach them that term or anything, but here it is. Orem ridiculam. I give them orem miseram. How sad, how pitiful, how miserable, and orem scelestam. And you might say, well, in your class, how many things are scelesta? How many things are evil? Not necessarily a lot, but it can be fun in the context of a story that we're reading or creating or something else we see in a text for students to be able to holler out, oh, rem scelesta. I'm like, wow, that is really evil. So these are the 6. Papae, eheu, and orem ridiculam, orem miseram, orem scelestam, that I always start the year off with. Again, I recommend them having kind of their own space, and as more come up, their own space in the classroom, if you are fortunate enough to be able to pull that off in your space. And then be able to add other interjections, other rejoinders to the same area, the same wall, as they come up over the course of students' Latin learning careers. So again, why use these? Partly just because it's fun, partly it gets students in the mode of operating in Latin, and again, it allows them to participate in ways that they couldn't otherwise. So the main way that I use these with students, or that I invite students to use them, is simply, I just tell students on the first day, anytime in this class, if I say something, if another student says something, if you see something happening, if you see something in a story we're reading or in a poem we're reading, and it seems like, wow, that's the kind of thing that's like, ooh, wow, papae. If it's an, oh no, eheu, you are authorized just to holler that out. Don't raise your hand, anything like that, because in language, interjections are like things that you're moved to say just because that's what is inspired by the moment. So that's the main way that these are used in class. Students are authorized to say and encouraged to say these kind of any time. The other, and sometimes I'll reinforce that by, if someone says something, a student, or reads something, and like, students really should have a wow response to that. I might go over and be like, and with a questioning mien, M-I-E-N, questioning look, and that will usually get some students, if they don't have the hang of it yet, get students saying some of these things. These, by the way, are some of the very few things in students' Latin instruction where I specifically go over the pronunciation, not teaching pronunciation rules, but specifically emphasize this is pronounced papae, and so on, because students at that point, if it's like the first day of class, they haven't heard a lot of Latin yet, let alone had the chance to have these things come out of their mouths much. The other main way, or another fun way of using rejoinders in class, is to assign specific students to say that one when it comes up. And you can do that either by just saying, okay, you're the papae person. Like other people might say it too, but you specifically, you want to pay attention to when something is wowie, and when it is, you yell papae. So it's kind of a student job that loops that students in. You can say it just the way I did there, or you can also, in addition to that, write it on a note card, write the word on a note card or on one of these boards and give it to students so that they really have it in front of them and can easily refer to that. Sometimes if I give it to them on a board like that, or on a pre-made card or something, they can actually hold it up as well. So those are two ways. One just generally spontaneously, another is kind of a student job that I found these Latin rejoinders to be helpful. I strongly encourage you, along with the gestures for procedural things, streamlining the flow of classroom interactions, which is another video. These two things are the main things that I start off when I first meet a group of Latin learners that I'm going to be spending time teaching. I teach them those gestures for procedures, and I teach them these specific rejoinders. So I encourage you to do the same. Of course, you can use additional ones or different ones if you enjoy those, or if they are more frequent in your curriculum, or if you just happen to prefer them. But give these a shot. Be sure to check out some of the other ideas on this channel. If you like what you see and you want there to be more, then please do subscribe, hit the bell, like some videos, leave a comment, and of course, share with your colleagues and friends. I will see you next time. Wale!